Hey guys, welcome back to Poll Talks. Wanted to give an outline of the video today while my maps for the presidential general election fill in. One is for my second to last projection for the presidential election, and then the other one is as the race currently stands, the states that are outside of a 3-point margin of error. So today we're going to cover a couple of different things. One, I saw some interesting polling coming out of the state of Florida this morning from A-plus rated pollster Monmouth, talking about Florida and the presidential election. Also wanted to give a real-time forecast and a real-time update of my Senate predictions, and then talk about the best-case scenario for the Democratic Party on election night and the best-case scenario for the Republican Party on election night. So if you're interested in one of those things, the time codes will be down below in the description. If you're interested in all of those things, please hang around for the whole video. And while I've got you guys here, if you're liking the content that I'm putting out, please hit that like button. If you're liking a lot of the content that I'm putting out, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps me grow as a channel, and want to thank you guys so much. So as the map finishes filling in, you can see that for my final forecast of the presidential general election, I've got Joe Biden at 367 electoral votes and President Trump at 171 electoral votes. I have moved Texas into the tilt Republican column, North Carolina, Georgia, and Florida into the tilt Democrat column, as well as Iowa. So that right there is 122 votes that are within 2 points. Surprisingly to me, Utah has been downgraded from a safe Republican state to a likely Republican state, as has the state of Indiana and Alaska. But other than that, not a whole lot of changes. Pennsylvania has gone down from likely Democrat to lean Democrat, but that's right at 5 points. And Arizona has done the same thing, and that is also exactly at 5 points in the polling averages. So with that, let's dive into the polling information that I'm seeing from Monmouth and the state of Florida. So this was released yesterday. Today is Friday. Happy Friday before Election Day, everyone. And we see down here, this is one of my favorite quotes. Biden appears to be holding on to enough support among Latino voters and is potentially building a cushion with younger voters overall. That's been a big worry in people's perception of Vice President Biden's campaign, that he is hemorrhaging Latino voters in comparison to Hillary Clinton. And while he's not doing as well with Latino voters as compared to Hillary Clinton in 2016, he is holding that margin, especially in a state as heavily populated by Latinos as Florida. And then looking down here, more than half of the registered voters in Florida have reported already voting, and Biden leads this group 59 to 39. So that's a huge margin. It's a 20-point margin in the state of Florida for those that have already voted, which is hard for President Trump to overcome. But Republicans traditionally vote on Election Day. And as you can see that, Donald Trump has a 53 to 30% edge for those who have yet to vote. But that math doesn't give President Trump the state of Florida. You can't have almost 60% of the population having voted, and you are lagging behind with less of the population to vote in Florida. This may be why the Trump campaign pulled their advertising out of the state of Florida, but we'll never know. I think that could have been what gave Joe Biden the state of Florida moving forward. And then we see down here, this I find amazing. Even though almost 60% of Florida voters have registered, and of that 60%, almost 60% voted for Joe Biden, almost half of Florida voters still expect Donald Trump to win the general election, which to me, it's just ironic. This shows that people aren't trusting the polls. People aren't trusting the data. They're using their own gut reaction, and people are still reacting to what happened in 2016, which is a valid concern. I mean, people were burned. People were burned by the media talking about how, Hillary Clinton had it in the bag. But if you go back to this map, just looking at the states where Joe Biden is polling outside of 3 points, he already has met 270 electoral votes. He already has 290 electoral votes. So, as I've said numerous times, 2020 is not 2016. There would need to be a large polling error in these states for Donald Trump to be reelected. He would need Joe Biden to lose the state of Pennsylvania. And then he would also need Joe Biden to lose another state somewhere on the map, whether that is the state of Arizona, whether that is one of the Rust Belt states, whether that is Minnesota. And then he would also need to win all of these states. He would need to win Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, and Iowa, all states that he is currently, most states which he is currently trailing in. He is currently trailing in North Carolina. He's currently trailing in Georgia. He's currently trailing in Florida, as we just covered, and Iowa. So it's the electoral map is getting very, very small. I don't want to spend too much time on the presidential election. I want to dive into my prediction for the Senate. So here we have a blank Senate map. There are 35 seats up for election this year. There's a special election in Georgia, special election in Georgia. Both seats are up in the state of Georgia. And there's a special election in the state of Arizona. So that's why we have 2 more seats than we normally would this year. I'm going to start with the safe Democrat seats. If you've been following along in any polling, you should know that these seats are not in jeopardy. They really haven't been in jeopardy, except for the state of Minnesota and Virginia for a time being. But both of those have pulled outside of the margin for the Democratic Party. And then the same goes for the Republican Party. These seats were never in jeopardy. They are safe. Even the state of Louisiana, which is a jungle primary, 2 Republicans are going to advance to the special election, so a Republican will win the state of Louisiana. So then we move into the likely Republican seats. We see Alaska. I know a lot of people are very high on Dr. Al Gross out of Alaska. I think he's going to put up an interesting fight in the state of Alaska, but I think that the Republicans will carry the state of Alaska. Texas is the same way. MJ Hager is doing a great job in Texas, but I think that Cornyn will carry. There are a lot of Republicans who are uneasy about President Trump, but they're more comfortable with having a Republican in the United States Senate rather than they are in the White House. Mississippi, Alabama, the Democrats are going to lose Doug Jones's seat in the state of Alabama to Tommy Tuberville. And then South Carolina, Jimmy Harrison has so much money. He could blanket the entire state of South Carolina with a media buy, TV, radio, newspaper, all other print. But Lindsey Graham, even with all the animosity that is against him nationally, Lindsey Graham is going to win the state of South Carolina. And then we move into the likely Democratic seats. These 3 seats were actually right on the edge of being safe seats. So Arizona, Colorado, and Michigan were all right on the edge. They were all in the 9 to 11 point range of being safe seats. But I genuinely feel that the Democrats are going to win these 3 states and in the process pick up 2 seats in the state of Arizona and the state of Colorado. And then we move on to the lean Democrat seats. The first one is the Georgia special election. Actually, as I think about this in real time as I'm recording, I'm going to cut that down to a tilt Democratic seat. I think that there could be some repercussions, some ramifications from, it could be a referendum on a new President Biden. I think that Vice President Biden will become President Biden in January, and even though this special election will be held in December, when President Trump is still in office, I think that after Vice President Biden polling so closely in the state of Georgia, after Vice President Biden potentially winning the state of Georgia, the Georgia Republican Party will turn around and elect a Republican senator in the special election in the month of December. So actually now moving on to the lean Democratic seats, we have the state of North Carolina and the state of Maine. These 2 states are states that are Democratic pickups. In both of these states, the Democrats are running very strong, and in both of these states, Vice President Biden is running very strong. I feel that these two states will go to the Democrats. In North Carolina, that being Cal Cunningham, and in Maine, that being Sarah Gideon. I think that they are very strong candidates. I think that there's also a lot of momentum for those Democratic candidates in these swing states. And then we move on to the tilt Republican states, the lean Republican states. We have the state of Montana, which has one Democratic senator. Even though there's a Democratic governor running for this seat, I think that the Republican Party will hold on to it. Much the same in Kansas. Barbara Bollier is putting up a good fight in the state of Kansas. I believe that the Kansas seat will go to Steve Marshall. He will be re-elected in the state of Kansas. And then moving on to the tilt Republican seats, we have the state of Georgia. David Perdue and John Ossoff, if you haven't watched my video from yesterday, they are polling very closely. I personally believe that David Perdue, based on on incumbency alone, David Perdue will be re-elected to the United States Senate. And then in Iowa, that is the final classification. That is a tilt Democratic seat for Greenfield. The data is showing that this race is probably one of the closer races, both on the Senate and presidential level. I think Iowa is definitely going to be a state to watch throughout the entire night. So this is my thinking based on the polling data. This is what I think will happen in the Senate election after the special election in the state of Georgia. Now, moving on to the best case scenario for the Democratic Party. First, let's work on some downgrades. I think a good showing in Kentucky would be to put that in the likely margin, and a good showing in Alabama would be to put that in the lean margin, as well as the state of Texas. In South Carolina, I think there's the potential to put that in the tilt margin for Lindsey Graham. And then those are the only states that I think will be downgraded from where they currently are. And then the flips, I think winning the Georgia special election, I think winning the Georgia regular election, and then flipping Montana to a Democratic seat. I think this is the biggest stretch, but I think that this is a very plausible map for the Democratic Party to be looking at. I think that Doug Jones outperforming polling in Alabama is very possible. I think Lindsey Graham underperforming his polling in South Carolina is also very possible. I think Amy McGrath doing very well in Kentucky is something that we will see. I think that she could get it below that safe margin for Mitch McConnell and show a chink in the armor. This is at the end of election night, this would be the best case scenario for the Democratic Party, showing some chinks in the armor in very traditional red states, as well as picking up the both Georgia seats, as well as Iowa and the state of Montana. And then the Republican Party would be to hold Montana, hold the Georgia special election, hold South Carolina at a comfortable margin, hold Kentucky at a comfortable margin, hold Alabama at a comfortable margin, hold Mississippi at a comfortable margin, win Texas by a comfortable margin, Alaska by a comfortable margin, win the state of Iowa, win the state of Maine for Susan Collins, and win the state of North Carolina for Tom Tillis, and then win the Georgia special election. There is still a possibility where the Republican Party has the majority in the Senate. I think that it is very unlikely that either of these maps happen, but on election night, these would be the best case scenarios for both parties. So I'm going to put back up my presidential forecast map. Thank you all so much for watching. Again, if you like this video, please hit that like button. If you like the rest of the content that I'm putting out, please hit that subscribe button. Really means a lot. It really helps get me out there as a new YouTuber trying to get my opinions and what I am seeing out there. Please vote. Polling means nothing if you do not vote. Please make sure that you get your voice heard. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you